Okay, this is the second time I'm recording this video because I just recorded the last one without any audio, which is brilliant. So this video is going to be a nice quick one, just about 10-15 minutes long. All I'm going to be talking about here is just now that we started getting in the arms and we started thinking about muscle groups and the cross sections of the arms. When we come to actually get our arms to a point where we're not obviously finished, but we're like, okay, we're going to leave that for now. Let's have a look at what you actually need. Unless you're doing anyone like Anthony, who's obviously very well built and he's got a lot of really great muscle definition, you don't need tons of detail, especially if you're doing a soft character. So I've picked up an old project here that's got some pretty nice arms. This whole project is kind of semi-stylized. So I've expressed stuff a little bit stronger in some areas, but let's just have a look at the arms. So you can see here that the see if I got the yes I do. You can see here that we've not got any like really massive detailing on the arms or anything like that. A lot of the detail in here is shadow detail. It's all shadow and detail. Sorry, shadow for detail, not shadow and detail. Because I did once have like sketched in muscles which are a little bit bigger or a little bit more well defined, but then when I'm actually starting to take this into a finished direction, I need to start chilling some of that stuff out. And my main thing is just, especially with the arm, does it read right? For all the different angles, if I'm moving around, does my arm look right? Number one, what I can do is just change my material to be flat color, so it changes everything to be a silhouette. Light doesn't affect it. And I can look at it, I can move back, and I can just look and think, okay, do those look like arms? If I look from above, or in fact, if I just get rid of, oops, a daisy, not that. If I just get rid of the whole body, not the shoulders though, like that. So do my arms look like arms? Do they read like arms? If I look from the top, do I have a noticeable shoulder? Do I have a noticeable elbow, wrist? If I rotate around, am I getting all the right information? So we're looking at also the shape of the arm when it comes to how muscles kind of define the structure. So if I bring my whole body back, oops, it is. There you go. And I'll leave it like this for now. Pink. So obviously we've got the deltoid there. It's coming in from the shoulder. Boom, that's nice and easy. From this direction, we've then got the bicep, which goes up underneath the armpit like that. All good. Now, because it's a tricep, we would have a little bit of a bulge right there. Now, mine does, but it's just very subtle, like everyone's is, unless you're incredibly well built. So I've got a little bit of a bulge there where my tricep is. And then we go smaller. We go smaller a little bit into the elbow, into the pit of the elbow, which is here. And then we're coming out into the forearm. Now, when we come into the legs, we're going to talk about this a lot as well. There's all these kind of like diagonals in the body. Like this. We'll start to notice of these a lot more as we do more. But when we come into the forearm here, obviously we're coming out of the elbow and it gets a little bit bigger because we get the muscles, and then we go into the wrist. So we go from big to small, well, big, small, big, small, big, small. To B, small, B, small, B, small. So going down the form like that. Big shoulder. As it connects to the bicep tricep, it gets a little bit smaller, obviously, and then it gets bigger as you get to like the major bulgy middle point of the upper arm, because that's where the main body of the bicep and the tricep are. And then we get a little bit smaller near the elbow, because that's where the elbow and the pit of the elbow is. Then we get a little bit bigger around the top of the forearm. That's an important one to know. The forearm doesn't bulge in the middle. It bulges, well, it does. When you're looking at it from the front, it does. Because your upper, I think that's your brachioradialaris, that one. The awkward named ones. But underneath, the bulge is more towards the elbow. It's just because the way these muscles are arranged. And that's why I'm talking about these kind of diagonals. So your biggest point here, biggest point here. The big, small, big, small, big, small. And then we can look at that from all the different angles. So does it look like we could do the exact same kind of analysis from all the different angles, above, below. If I'm just kind of like rotating in general, does it all look good? And again, just backing off, does it read right? Oops. As you can see, it all looks perfectly fine. It's just not massively defined. We've got a little bit of an elbow definition there. I always like punching out my wrist bone, so I've got a nice punched out wrist bone there. And I've got a little bit, because it's like this semi-stylized thing, I've got a little bit of definition in the shoulder, but it's all created through shadow, not necessarily sharp lines of division or anything like that. The human body rarely has any very, very sharp straight lines. And what you're going to see in a second is the beginning sculpt. You can actually see how much I've changed it from where I started off to where I am now. But what I've also got on here, just to kind of point it out, is how subtle things can be, but how a lot of information that can put across. I'm pointing with the wrong pen. Here, around the ribs here, I wanted this isn't a particularly like wafy character. It's not a super, super thin character. It's a person who is, like Laura, they're very, very fit and got a very low body fat percentage. Body fat percentage. So I wanted to pull out some of that information, mainly being the ribs at the back there, that I've not defined the lat muscles super, super intense, because they're very well defined when you've kind of worked them. What I got here is it's a tiny little subtle bit of lat information, but mainly it's about pulling that lat muscle over the rib cage at the back and having some of those ribs kind of just poking through. I ended up getting rid of all the trapezius stuff because it's eventually going to get removed anyway, because it's going to get covered up. Same for the front here. You know, I've got a little bit of that serratus going into the obliques. Some abdominals, which eventually going to get covered up. And some form of collarbone. So let's have a look at where this started off. There we go. So the head's better on this one. I should really swap the heads around. But you can see here that this is my sketch version, and how I've done the arm on this one as well is just like I did if you've watched the Alien video. Is I did the arm, upper arm and lower arm separate, just because, you know, I could have done them all in one go, or I could have used these spheres, or I could have done them as two pieces like this. So I've decided in this case just to do 2 pieces. So that's why there's no lower arm. But you can see here, even at a lower resolution, you can see where I've been able to define some of those major muscles that I wanted to kind of make a point of. My bicep, even though it's going into the wrong place, it looks like it's going up into the deltoid when really it should be going into the armpit. See there? And I've obviously punched out some of that information with the trapezius. Now, just with the trapezius dead fast, what I've not done here is I've not put in any of the, like when you see someone who's really, really in good shape, you see this little void right here. Or not a void, but you see a little cluster of muscles right here. Suprainfraspinatus, I think the name is. It's basically a cluster of muscles. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them that kind of just pop out, and you'll see that on very, very well built people. Anthony probably has them on his back. And if you look at our naked people, you'll see them, especially Kevin. You'll see it a lot on Kevin. But what I've decided just to do here, because I knew that I was going to cover it up anyway, I just did the sailboat. So I've outlined my C7. So I've got that little divot within the muscles. But I've just done the sailboat just to get it in there, and then got some lat muscle information in there as well, knowing that I was probably going to push it back. These are just my landmarks, and as I push it back, I'm trying to maintain the shadows rather than the sharp. Like, these are all sharp details that I've put in because these are my sketches. So when I push it back, I get something rather that relies on shadows more than this. So if you look at the arm itself again, we can see again I've just done the same stuff. I've used probably the damn standard just to chisel in some of these muscles. That later on, when I go up to a higher resolution, I can just start to carefully smooth. Not that much. That's too much right there. So I'm going to start to, you know, lose some of the information, and then maintain the information that I do want. You know. And one thing I have done is, which is better on, it's better on this one, is where the arm connects to the body, right about here, there's a little bit of a pyramid, a little bit of a triangle that I always try and put in. If it stays behind once I've blended everything and then start to smooth off detail, that kind of stuff, who knows. But as you've got your deltoid and you've got your pectorals coming in like this. So you have pectorals which are joined to the top of the clavicle there, and you have some that are joined to the rib cage and then to the sternum, sorry, not the rib cage. And then you got some which are joined to the rib cage at the bottom, like that. That's what your pectorals look like. What you've got, what you end up having, is this little section right here. And you'll be able to feel it on yourself. Even me as a bigger lad can feel it. So I've got my deltoid there, and I've got my pectoral there. And if you just feel around that area, you'll feel this little divot. But it's like a bit of a gap where, you know, you've not got any bones or muscles or anything like that. I always like to put that in there because I think it's just a nice landmark. And if I then, you know, progress the character further later on, if I want to make someone look very, very strong and muscly, I might even leave that in. Or very toned, not necessarily muscly, very toned, in very good shape. You can see, dead simple. What's that, 11 minutes so far. So again, I can do this whole flat color, have a check. So you can see the difference between this character and this character if I explode them. You see the character difference there, where I've got on the fuller finished character, I decided to express the shoulders a little bit more because it's that semi-stylized thing, and I wanted that big small idea. On the original sketch here, this is where the shoulders are a lot more realistic, a lot more subtler. But you can still see big to small, and then it will be going to big in the middle of the arm, then to small by the elbow. But it's all just about looking at that silhouette, you know. That's why I'm always telling people just to step back, you know. Don't go inwards. As soon as you start zooming in, that's detailing area. And the difference between the two characters as well, same body, exact same body, but I've made changes. You know, I've moved shoulders up. I made the age-old thing where I always make the body too long, so I had to make the body shorter. They're still pretty much the same. Oh no, the original body had less of a curve in the spine, almost like she's falling forward a little bit actually. So I ended up adjusting that because I've got no bum on this, so that'd be what created the bottom of the curve to give it more of a believable curve. But I really should change the heads of these. This head is far better than the other. So that was just a quick one, just to kind of show how subtle we can be with the arms. Now when we come to the legs next, it's a bit of a different story because legs actually have a lot of very important muscles, both for function and also aesthetically speaking. There's a lot of really nice shapes in the leg. But you'll see the similarities between legs and arms as well. Cool. See you in the next one.